Why do markers dry out? Hi, welcome to Curious Kids Every Day. I'm Josh. How are you doing today? It's so good to hear from you. Hey, do you like to draw? What is your favorite writing utensil to use when you draw? Do you like pencils or crayons? My kids love to draw with markers. Do you have markers at your house? What is your favorite color to draw with? Hey, have you ever lost your favorite marker? And then later you found it on the ground, but there was no cap on it? You know, the cap. It's kind of like the hat that you click on top of the marker. Now, when you found that marker on the ground that didn't have a cap on it, and you went to write with it again, did it work? Probably not. You might have handed it to your parents and they said, "This marker dried out." But why do markers do that? Pencils don't dry out. Crayons don't dry out. Why do markers dry out? Why is that marker cap so important? I was thinking about markers today because I got an email from a curious kid named Sophie. She wondered, why do markers dry out? A marker works because it has ink. And that ink is usually made of two main parts. Color, like blue dye or a red dye, and then something called solvent. Solvent is a liquid helper. Its job is to carry the color out of the marker and onto the paper. In many markers, the solvent is mostly water or alcohol. But here's the problem with water and alcohol. Water and alcohol evaporate. You know what evaporation is? We've talked about evaporation quite a few times on Curious Kids Every Day, but I know there are a lot of new kids who listen to the show every day, so let's explain it real quick. Evaporation means a liquid slowly turns into a gas and floats away into the air. Evaporation is why if you spill some water, it will slowly disappear on its own. All right, so just keep evaporation in your mind. We're going to talk about the marker again for a second, but just remember evaporation, okay? Now let's talk about the marker. In the marker, there's a little ink tank called a reservoir. Can you say reservoir? And at the tip of the marker, there's a spongy point, often made of felt or fiber. We call it the marker tip. That tip is what you draw with. And that tip is something called porous. Do you know what porous means? Porous means that it has tiny little holes, like a sponge. Those tiny holes help the ink travel through the tip and onto the paper. And that works great most of the time, but there's a downside to markers, because a porous tip also exposes the ink in the marker to the air outside. And that's where evaporation comes in, because guess what happens when ink made of water or alcohol comes into contact with all of that air? Yep, it does what water and alcohol do. It evaporates. So if a marker is left uncapped, air touches the tip and the ink inside that tip starts to evaporate. And once the solvent evaporates, the color part can get stuck and dry. Sometimes it dries right in the tip and it clogs it up. All right, so that's what happens if you don't use the cap, but why does it not do that when you use the cap? Well, the cap strongly limits the amount of air that the tip comes into contact with. It helps keep the air near the tip from constantly changing, and that slows down evaporation. That's why markers are different than other writing utensils. That unique blend of color and solvent has to stay covered or the liquid starts evaporating into the air. This is why a marker cap is so important, because with that cap off, the evaporation can happen really quickly. Alcohol evaporates very, very quickly. That's why sometimes even if you think the cap hasn't even been off that long, your marker still doesn't work. So that's why your parents are always telling you to put the cap on the marker when you're done using it. And that's also why that marker you dropped yesterday probably isn't working today. Okay, let's have a quick quiz. What is the name for a liquid slowly turning into a gas and floating away? We call it evaporation. And what is the liquid part of ink called that helps carry the color? We call it a solvent. And what word describes the tip of the marker, meaning it has tiny holes like a sponge? That word is porous. And you can remember that word because it's like how your skin has pores, little holes that liquid comes out of. Let's play true or false. True or false? The cap helps slow down evaporation from the tip. Yep, that's true. True or false? Alcohol evaporates slowly. No, false. Alcohol evaporates quickly. True or false? A marker tip is often porous, kind of like a sponge. Yep, that is true. Would you rather invent a marker that never gets lost or a marker that never dries out? I would love to have a marker that never dries out. Can you imagine the power if you didn't have to put the cap back on the marker? Hey, that would open up a whole new world. Okay, let's play a couple of rounds of What Am I? What am I? I am a process that happens when a liquid becomes a gas. I can make puddles disappear, and I happen faster when air is warm and moving. What am I? Yep, I am evaporation. All right, here's one more. What am I? I am the part of ink that carries color. I might be water or alcohol, and if I leave, the ink can get thick and stuck. What am I? I am the solvent. All right, I've got one more game today. This game is called Does It Dry Out? I'm going to name something, and you tell me if that thing dries out or does not dry out. Are you ready? How about a slice of apple left on the counter? Yep, that definitely dries out. Gets all soft and wrinkly. What about toothpaste with the lid left open? Yep, that dries out. Most things that have a lid or a cap, there's a good reason for it. What about a candle? Does that dry out? Nope, it is solid wax. What about a glue stick with the cap off? Another cap. That dries out too. What about a colored pencil? That does not dry out. Well, the next time you find a capless marker on the floor, now you know why it's important to get the cap back on that thing as quickly as possible. Maybe you can save it. But if it is dried out, we know the reason. The liquid part of the ink escaped into the air, and once that liquid is gone, the color gets stuck and the tip can clog up. Here's something fun you can do. After you listen to this episode, Go look at a marker tip up close. Does it look more like a hard plastic point or more like a tiny sponge? Yeah, that spongy, porous tip is great at helping ink flow, but it also means the cap matters a lot. The next time your parents ask you to put the marker cap back on the marker, you can tell them why it's important for you to do it. What kind of question do you think we'll ask tomorrow on Curious Kids Every Day? I can't wait to find out. So until then, keep asking questions and stay curious, kids. And for all the grown-ups listening, I just want to say thank you so much for making this show a part of your family's routine. I hear from so many families who say they listen in the car or they listen during lunch, and I know how difficult it is to find programming that your whole family enjoys. So it means a lot to me to hear that this show is that for your family. So thank you. That means a lot to me. And we've got a few birthdays today. It's Clementine's birthday. Clementine is from Maryland, and Clementine is turning 4. Happy birthday, Clementine. Knox is from Texas, and Knox is turning 4. Happy birthday, Knox. And one more birthday. It's Solomon's birthday. Solomon is from California, and Solomon is turning 7. Happy birthday, Solomon. To all the grown-ups listening, if your curious kid wants their birthday mentioned on the show, please visit supportcuriouskids.com and join the Curious Kids Club. That's supportcuriouskids.com. See you tomorrow.